Welcome to Crime in Court. My name is Heather, and this is yet another episode in the Canton Cover-Up Commonwealth versus Karen Reed. You might have heard of this little known trial now. It's crazy that, when I started my channel because of this trial, I was, not a lot of people you had even heard of it yet. So now it's people are starting to learn more and more about it. So it's great because that's why I do this. I think we all need to be educated about our society and our laws and how they can affect us, whether good or bad. We should know. And with that said, we are going to be talking today on the topic of liar, liar, Colin's getaway driver. So, we're going to go over a little bit of some inconsistencies and some points in which the some points in which the defense really impeached her. They got her good. So we're going to talk about some of her testimony, how she likely did not do what she testified to doing, and we'll get into that. But first, let's all take a little, for those of you who know this case, this is going to be a little bit of a refresher, but for those of you who are new to this case, it's always a great idea to kind of have a timeline. So someone by the name of Sleuthy Goosey, she just loves true crime like all of us, but she's really good at FOIA requests, and also she's really good at organizing the content. So she put out a general, like a Google Doc or a Google Excel sheet that has tons of discovery, links to everything, and just she did a really good job in the way she laid it out. She gave us all a timeline. So based on her spreadsheet, I created for my episode 4 of this case, I created a timeline to go along with the FOIA request, which is Freedom of Information Act request, where you can request public documents, anything that is public relating to the government. Hold on, I just need to move my cord. It's sorry, I know you can hear it. I keep bumping it. So there, that should be better. That's my mic cord. All right, all out of the way. Sorry about that. So I'm going to take us back. So I created this based on, like I said, Sleuthy Goosey's timeline. I go in deep. So I'm not going to go through everything. I just want to go through one quick portion, but I'm just going to show you or recap. So they started off at CF McCarthy's, which was location number 1. It's a 2-minute walk to the Waterfall Bar and Grill, which is the last establishment that they went to. That's location 2. And then they went from there to 34 Fairview Road, which was Brian and Nicole Albert's residence. And that is location number 3. As we know, Karen took this Washington to Chapman to Fairview. So that was their route from here's Waterfall Bar. You guys can see. You know what? Let me make this a full screen. I can even I'm gonna hop out. All right, so this is the Waterfall Bar all the way down here. If you can see my mouse circling. And then she obviously took, follow the arrows to 34 Fairview Road. That was John and Karen's route. I'm going to skip um, a few slides because we want to get to uh, so they leave the Waterfall Bar. Yeah, this is good. So we'll start here at 12:13 a.m. John McCabe's phone location leaves the Waterfall Bar. Oh, prior to that, Sorry. Karen walks out with two females at 12:10 from the waterfall bar. John walks out with a cocktail glass, according to, I think, the Commonwealth document. So, I mean, a lot of these are according to court documents, or all of this, I should say, is. It's based on whatever's been presented within um, documents that we've gotten through FOIA and through the courts. So, 12:10 a.m., Karen walks out of the bar. 12:11 a.m., John walks out of the bar. 12:13, Jen McCabe's phone leaves the waterfall bar. 12:14, John O'Keefe texts Jen where to, and then Jen calls John. But oddly, she deletes this call from her phone log. 12:15 a.m., we see Karen's SUV driving on surveillance video down Washington Street towards Chapman to make that turn. And then we have 12:15 is Ryan Nagel arrives at 34 Fairview Road. According to grand jury testimony, keep in mind that when I put this timetable together, there might be a few variations now that we've heard testimony, what people have testified to, but this was what we knew before going into trial. So just keep that in mind because there might be some discrepancies. You might have been like, well, wait a minute, so and so said it was this time and not that time, just so you know. Okay, so according to the grand jury testimony, Ryan Nagel arrives at 34 Fairview Road. This was obviously Juliana Nagel is his sister. She texted him to come pick her up. So he comes in the street right behind Karen. But if we go back to that slide here, they were coming down Chapman from the opposite direction because they had to yield to Karen turning right in order for them to turn left onto Chapman. I hope that makes sense. All right, so let's go back to where we were. Sorry to be skipping back and forth through here, but it's just the easiest to have it on the big screen. All right, so where did I leave off? All right, so Ryan Nagel arrives at 34 Fairview Road. Remember, he's in his friend's Ricky. I think it's Ricky D'Antonio. His friend's Ricky is driving a Ford F-150. Ricky's driving, Ryan Nagel's in the passenger seat, and Ryan's ex-girlfriend or girlfriend at the time, Heather Maxson, was in the back seat as they approached 34 Fairview Road. Ryan, I don't remember if Ryan did, but I know Heather did. She testified to the fact that she saw a man in Karen's car. She saw both a woman and a man. So, eyewitness there. All right, so Caitlin Albert is, according to other people's testimony, Caitlin Albert is picked up by her boyfriend Tristan, even though we found out at trial that she was actually supposed to spend the night at her parents' house that night because of the, um, you know what? Hold on one second. Voila, magic. I just appeared. All right, so I needed to pause you guys for 1 second so I could get that working. All right, so I feel like I'm just talking to no one. All right, so um, totally lost my train of thought. Where was I? So the Caitlin Albert, according to everybody's testimony or statements or what have you, Caitlin Albert was picked up by Tristan, her boyfriend. However, we learned in trial that Caitlin was actually supposed to spend the night at her parents' that night because it was supposed to be a blizzard, because they knew they were expecting this big snowstorm. And Tristan plows. I don't know if that's like a side job or if he just does it for a living. I didn't really hear much of his testimony or pay much attention to his testimony because he was kind of boring. But Tristan, the boyfriend of Caitlin, she called him to come pick her up after he had gone home to go to bed so that he could get a couple hours of sleep before he went out to plow. So their plans got changed, flipped, turned upside down, like Bel Air, Fresh Prince. Lyrics come to me like, you know how Melanie, I don't know if you guys ever watch Attorney Melanie Little. I love her show. She's so knowledgeable about the law. When she said that she thinks in song lyrics, I was like, oh my God, she's like my soulmate because I think in song lyrics too. And then lo and behold, all these other people do. And if she has writing in on her chat as she's streaming the trial, everybody's like, oh, they heard a phrase and they're like, oh, that reminded me of this song. So they put song lyrics in the chat. It's funny. So sorry about that. Anyways, so Kristen went home to the apartment that her and Caitlin went home to the apartment that her and Tristan share. It's funny because in the first police report, I think, or the second, I don't know, one of them, they changed people's names so that it was Tristan was the daughter's name, I think, and then they didn't even mention the boyfriend, or they gave the boyfriend a different name. I can't remember, but it was they definitely seem to have been trying to hide the kids' identities, it appears. Anyways, so Caitlin Albert gets picked up by no, probably cranky Tristan for having to wake up early to come get his girlfriend instead of sleeping like he had planned for plowing that night. Our number 12, sorry, at 12:17 a.m., then we see the SUV, Karen's SUV, seen on the surveillance driving in the direction of 34 Fairview Road. Is that the library? That might be the library video surveillance. But there's so much. There is CCTV of her SUV, I believe, on her route there, but we don't have any on the way home, which would show whether her tail light was intact or not. It's just funny how the library footage just goes missing right at that part where Karen Reed would be driving past. And then also the video surveillance right when Chief Berkowitz and Brian Higgins are in the Sally Port with Karen's car the day of. Yeah, that also went missing, which we believe was meant to shatter that tail light into pieces so that they could leave behind evidence. All right, so not number, but at 12:18, then Jen McCabe's phone location arrives at 34 Fairview Road. So now Jen McCabe, finally, we've got her pegged at 34 Fairview Road, 12:18. At least her phone is, so she can't be far behind. John calls Jen. It's answered. Again, this is strangely deleted from Jen's call log, but nonetheless, that's what happens. Then at 12:19, John's phone starts to ping around or near 34 Fairview, but it's not till 12:24 where John's phone arrives at 34 Fairview Road, according to cellular data. And then we have, so 3 minutes later, 12:27 a.m., Jen texts John here, question mark, exclamation point. So it's like a question, like, are you here? Like, I saw you pull up, right? Like, where are you? So then 2 minutes later, Jen calls John, and it lasts, and this is the last call to John. It is answered. It is answered. Um, oh, I was gonna tell you how long. I can't remember how long they talked. It was very brief, if anything. Uh, hold on one second. All right, never mind. I tried to look up how long that call lasted, but there was no data on that in the spreadsheet. So I tried. All right. But we know Jen calls John. I'm sure it was a brief conversation, and then it was answered and deleted. I don't know how long it was for. All right. So then we have Colin Albert returns home according to grand jury testimony by someone. This is how we finally found out that this was confirmation that Colin Albert was in the house. Originally, after this crime had happened and Karen had been arraigned, someone came to David Uniti's office and told them, Karen, your client didn't do this, and here's what we believe happened, and we believe Colin Albert was involved. So from the very beginning, they knew Colin. They knew something happened in that basement between Colin, Brian Albert, and Brian Higgins, potentially all three of them, a combination of one or two, or just one. I don't know. Well, Colin wouldn't be enough to hurt John, but Uncle Brian stepping in to protect his cocky, foul-mouthed little twig of a teenage nephew will probably jump in and say, hey, don't get into it with my nephew or whatever. And Brian boxed. Brian trained MMA, which means boxing, using other, depending on whatever style he focuses his training on. But usually they're sparring, boxing, whatever, some form of like maybe a jujitsu or judo or something where they're like using their body to control other people's bodies, using their skills as a trained fighter. You could really hurt someone in that situation. And if he's constantly training, in weightlifting, he probably doesn't know his own strength. And that could have been a result of you throw one punch, it knocks John out. He hits his head on the back of the floor, the back of the weight bench, whatever it is, and it's lights out. And he loses his red DNA, can't say the word, BLOOD. He loses, I think, 3 pints of it, 2 pints of it. Let me know in the comments below. I can't remember. I think it's 3 pints. Like he lost a lot of blood, a lot of blood. And it was nowhere at the scene. So where is it? It's obviously somewhere in that Canton home, or ended up somewhere in that Canton home, because these people are guilty of sin. I don't know what they're all guilty of, but they're guilty of sin. Normal, innocent people don't act like the way any of these people are acting. All right, let's continue because I want to get through this. So, John arrives at the location of 34 Fairview at 12:24. 12:27, Jen texts John here. 12:29, she calls him. It's answered, but she deletes it. 12:30, according to people's testimony at the grand jury, and only because people testified at the grand jury to this, we found out that Colin was in the house, even though everybody else was telling us Colin wasn't in the house. So that was interesting information to be learned for sure. So then there's the 12:31 Jen texts John, pull up behind me. 12:37. So at this point, he's been there over 10 minutes. 12:24, 12:27, 12:29, 12:31, 12:37. This is where we find out the footage from Canton Library is missing, but this is about where Karen would have been on the drive home, because we know it is confirmed that Karen arrived at John's house and she left a voicemail for him. and you can hear her in the garage in her heels on the garage floor echoing and whatnot as she's leaving a voicemail for him because remember she was waiting for an answer from him like are we supposed to be here, are we staying, are we going, are we really invited, do I even want to come in, do I just let you go, like there was still a conversation to have been had with John at that point, and he never came back out to talk to her, or he never texted her or called her to just say, "Hey, I'm good. Go home. I'll get a ride," or something to that effect. She never got any of that, which was frustrating to her because here she is thinking, like, okay, I'm supposed to be waiting for him to come back out and tell me something, and he totally forgot about me. So, of course, she's starting to get riled up and a little annoyed that he didn't come out. Little does she know he's in there getting confronted by individuals in the home. And I'm telling you this because I think whatever happened happened right away. Like he walked in the door and somebody went off. I'm thinking more like a hot-headed little 17-year-old at the time might have spewed some things from his mouth that got heated and things got out of control. Once Brian Higgins started to get into the fight, then the dog stepped in. I did see, I like to read social media comments and things, and I can't confirm that this is true, but someone did say in a comment that, the way it went down was that, Colin started it. Uncle Brian had to step in. The dog stepped in. Speaking of dogs, my dog just fell off the bed. She's fine. She was rolling on her back like, how dogs roll with their paws up in the air, and she rolled a little too far off the bed, didn't you? You're okay. You're okay. All right, she's fine. All right. And it scared the other dogs. So, anyways, so um that is kind of where we're at. So this is what I'm telling you all this because this is the time frame when I think it really everything went down because I think it's possible that Jen didn't see John come in the house. I think she might have missed him. Maybe he went in the side door and went downstairs and she was upstairs, or she was maybe in a different room doing something and he walked in and she didn't see it. For whatever reason, he came in when she wasn't looking out the window. Her and her nosy husband weren't staring out the window. I think he might have walked in, got confronted, like I said, and like that this person who posted said, and then the dog stepped in and Brian Higgins was the one trying to get the dog off of him, I think, is what we're trying to hold him back, is what this poster, the person who posted on social media said. And it it makes sense to me, but I don't know. That's kind of just where the evidence is lying in my uh, mind so far. So then we know she continues to text him. Jen texts John, hello, 12:40. She continues to call him unanswered, unanswered. Where are you? Unanswered. Jen says that she observes the SUV pull away around 12:45. And mind you, this was before trial, so this was before her testimony. But that's when she originally was saying, according to some statement somewhere, her statements have changed and they're all over the place. So I don't know, take it for what you will, but we do know Karen left a voicemail at 12:41 from John's garage. So it couldn't have been Karen's black SUV driving away at 12:45 if that is indeed what John McCabe had said. So then we've got her texting hello, more unanswered calls, delete, and many of these things are all deleted from her call log. We have more deleted calls and all that. And then I'm not even going to read the rest because we, um, yeah, we don't need the rest. But that was a kind of a good brief overview of the timeline right around that section of time in the morning when Karen would have been dropping him off and other people were in and out of there and eyes were on the street and whatnot. So that is kind of a recap of episode 4, our timeline episode. And now we're going to talk about Allie. First, let's watch the clips. Watch some clips. That's what we'll do. All right, so let me get Allie here. So we're going to watch a little bit of her direct testimony on the events of when she went to go pick up Colin and times and all that. So just now that we went through all those times, remember it's around that 12:24 and 12:34, I don't know, 12:40 period of time where I think John was, I think that's when it happened, when John lost his life right around there, or at least went unconscious. At that point, he was knocked unconscious. Oh, and the poster did post something about, or maybe it was a different poster, but someone did post something about him falling backwards and hitting his head on the weights or dumbbell or something, and that is a rumor that has been out there. I don't know how, you know, it's unsubstantiated at this time. It is rumor because we don't know at this point. All right, so we're gonna watch a little bit of her direct going over the timeline of picking up Colin and going home, and then we're gonna watch David Yannetti tear that up. So it's fun to watch. Yeah, no,
where we left off.
uh-oh.
When you
Turn that up. Hope you guys can hear it.
arrived at the residence at 34 Fairview Road, you pulled into the driveway, is that correct?
I believe so.
It's Lolly. He doesn't talk very loud and he never talks near a mic.
And obviously, on that date, you were familiar with the types of vehicles that your parents drove?
Yes.
And did you see any of your parents' vehicles at the home when you pulled in and parked in the driveway?
No.
And when you got to the house at any point, did you exit the car or go inside the house?
No.
So you texted him that you were there, you stayed in the car, and he came out.
Yes.
And when Colin came out to the car, what, if any, observations did you make of him in regards to his sobriety, as far as what, if any, observations did you make in respect to that?
Normal.
Didn't seem overly intoxicated to you?
No.
And as far as his face or features, or from whatever you could see, what, if any, injuries did you observe on Colin when he came out?
None.
And how would you describe his demeanor when he came out and he got into the car?
Normal.
Now, during the course, you drove from the Fairview home to Colin's house, is that right?
Yes.
And where was Colin living at that point?
I don't know the address, but his new house, not the one where he was neighbors with John, the newer house.
And if you could, just generally speaking, where was that in relation to the town of Canton? What was it?
It's in the center of town, close to the library.
And do you recall, or do you know what type of residence that is?
Yes, it's like condos. I'm not sure exactly, but yeah, townhouses.
As far as your drives from the residence in Fairview to Colin's house, did you make any stops along the way?
No.
About how long a drive is it from Fairview to Colin's new house?
7 minutes, 5 minutes.
And when you arrived there, what did you observe Colin do?
Got out of the car, went inside, got the key, locked it, went inside.
And is that something as far as, did you wait for him to get inside?
Yes.
And why was it?
I always wait for him because it's like how he has to open the first door to get inside. So I usually just wait for everyone to get inside.
And during the car ride from Fairview to Colin's house, do you recall anything specific about, did you have a conversation with him?
Probably. I don't remember what we were talking about.
And then following that, where did you go?
I believe home.
And when you got home, were either of your parents home at that point?
No.
Do you know about what time it was that you got?
Not exactly. I would estimate a little bit before 12:30, around that time.
And at any point in time over the rest of the course of that evening, did you see your parents, did you talk to your parents or anything like that?
I know I talked to my dad on the phone when we found the dog. Other than that, no.
And so after your return home, when you went to bed or you went...
There was this strange story about her and someone finding a dog on the street, and then they went to the police station to go turn it in, and then right when they were there, the person called the police station and asked them to come drop the dog off for them. Like, what? Yeah. her testimony just that didn't make any sense to me. Does that make any sense to you guys?
To sleep? Were your parents home at that point?
No,
About how much time was it between the time when you got home around 12:30 or so and when you went to sleep?
not long. I don't know.
Now, turning your attention to the following day, at some point you woke up, correct?
So she went to sleep at 12:30. She testified. She dropped Colin off about 12:15ish, 12:20. She got home about 12:30 and went to sleep close to that, close or sometime thereafter. So now I'm going to. This is more fun. Let's watch this. This is David Yannetti talking about the data she didn't know he had.
Okay, and just to wrap this up, to this day, no extraction has been done on your phone, correct?
Correct.
Now, when you had that Zoom interview on August 25th, you told the trooper that you drove Colin straight to his house after you picked him up on January 29th, and then you went straight home, correct?
Yes, I believe.
And you have previously testified back in August of 2023 that you believe you dropped Colin Albert off at his home at around 12:15, 12:20 or so?
Correct.
And when you left, by the way, you're very familiar with 34 Fairview, right?
Correct.
That's family, correct?
Correct.
Been over there many, many, many times, correct?
Correct.
And you're familiar with the neighborhood in terms of the streets that are around there, right?
Correct.
And you've lived in Canton your whole life?
Yes. Until
When you were a baby, you were in Stoughton?
Yes.
Basically, you're a Canton girl, okay?
Yes.
And can you tell the jury the route that you took home from 34 Fairview, or actually, like the route that you took to Colin Albert's house when you left 34 Fairview on January 29th?
I don't remember specifically, but I would believe I drove up Fairview, then. Sorry, I don't know the streets.
If I suggested to you that the street closest to 34 Fairview was Cedar Crest, and the one on the other side is Chapman, does that refresh your memory?
Yeah, so Chapman,
Okay, so
I
you
believe.
went up and gone to Chapman and taken a right or a left?
Really bad with directions. When I got there, I went to the center of town, his house. I don't know specifically which way. I'm trying to think of it. I can't picture it.
Yes.
Are you familiar with Washington Street in Canton?
Yes.
Would you have wound up on Washington Street?
Yes.
All right. And you're aware that the Canton Library is on the corner of Washington and Sherman Street? Does that make sense?
Yes.
So you would pass by the library?
Yes.
All right. Now, with regard to whether you went straight home, did you, by the way, when you went home, did you stay there
Yes, I believe so.
for in the rest of the night?
Yes.
Okay. And what time do you say that you arrived at home?
I'm not sure. Before around 12:30ish.
Okay. With regard to Life 360, would you agree with me that if you go on that app and you're trying to figure out where somebody in your family is, there's like and let's say you want to know somebody's home, there's like a circle that surrounds your home, correct?
Yes.
So once you enter that circle, you know that Life 360 gives an alert that said you arrived at home. Even though you're physically not walking in the door, you're within that circle, and that's the home circle, right?
Yes.
On January 29th of 2022, at 12:04 and 53 seconds, you arrived within that home circle, correct?
Correct.
And then at 12:06 and 55 seconds on January 29th, you left that home circle, correct?
Correct.
And then on January 29th of 2022, at 12:23 and 14 seconds, you completed a 7-mile drive where your top speed was 42 miles an hour. Does that make sense?
Correct.
And then you left home on January 29th of 2022 at 12:23 and 14 seconds as well. And what that probably means, reading between the lines, is that you entered that home circle, but then you didn't go home. You went through the home circle and completed a 7-mile drive somewhere, right?
I guess I thought I went home.
Objection, Your Honor.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't hear your answer.
I believe I went home.
Okay.
I was completing my drive at my house.
All right. But at 12:26 a.m. on January 29th, you left home again, right?
Objection, Your Honor.
Did you leave home?
I don't know. I don't remember.
Okay.
All right.
What is Lolly's objection for? Why is he objecting to that? I mean, I know he's objecting because he doesn't want her to answer because it hurts his case, but what is his legal justification to objecting to that? That's a valid question.
And at 12:26 a.m. and 12 seconds, you arrived at the Canton High School, correct?
No.
On January 29th of 2022, At 12:26 and 55 seconds, you completed a 1 mile drive where your top speed was 43 miles per hour, right?
I don't believe so.
And then at 12:26 and 55 seconds on January 29th, you left Canton High School and arrived at home on January 29th of 2022 at 12:29 and 28 seconds, correct?
I do not know.
And then after arriving home,
This whole group of people has a huge problem. Either all the data from their phones is just wrong, or they're lying. I mean, in one way or another. They also have the problem of, I can't recall, I don't remember, because that seems to be the running theme for all of these witnesses. I just don't recall, because they think if they say that, that gives them immunity to answering questions, at least in that realm, questions on that topic. Or a lot of the witnesses looked at the judge for help, looked to Lolly for help. This is the craziest trial I've ever seen, where the witnesses are like, before the question's asked, they're like, ready to step in for me? Given the IQ to the prosecutor. It's just nuts.
again on January 29th of 2022 at 12:29 and 29 seconds, you completed a 12-mile drive on January 29th of 2022 at 12:31 and 22 seconds, did you not?
12 miles. A 12-mile drive. Remember, she was at some game. I think it was her sister's game or something, and then her excuse was she was driving people around. And Colin sends her a text and says, "Come, can you come get me?" and whatever. And they tried to show us texts, and they didn't look verified. They looked fake. And I believe we went over them. There's no like timestamps or anything. It's just kind of fake looking. So it's not that hard to create a text string of messages. There's apps out there now, AI apps that you could just do it, create it, and make it into a picture. They could have easily done that. I'm not saying that that's what they did, but I'm saying it's not that difficult. And Yannetti also tears her completely apart on another part of Cross earlier, where he went into how you can change the date and time, and you can even change specifically the dates on your call log. You can change your time zone and change dates and things like that. So there were things that they could have done to manipulate that. And we didn't get the actual raw data, which is a problem. So why it was let in, these unvalidated, unverified texts, I don't know. But Judge Canoni was all for it. I think she likes this drama. I think she's kind of enjoying it because she she's lightened up a bit. I will say she has lightened up a bit with the defense. She leaves them a little bit more leniency, I think, somewhat in some cases. However, I still think that she's totally blocking them in regards to really diving into this third party culprit um, angle that they have. I think she cuts them off every time they start getting juicy. Every time something starts getting really good, it's like, oh, Madam Court Reporter, do you need a break? It's hot in here. Like, what? She did that in the middle of a really heated and awesome hearing. And it's like, who does that? So, like I said, she's kind of getting a little bit better. At least she's allowing some things in that I kind of, in some ways, I was like, she's never going to let that in. She's going to control all the evidence in this case. But she has actually let a lot in regarding the other individuals in the house and how they could be possibly related. All right, back to Allie McKay. I know so much about this case. I could talk about it like for hours. So I'm glad you guys are here to let me talk to you about it because this is fun for me. Anyways,
No.
Moving on.
And then you left home on January 29th of 2022 at 1:08 and 15 seconds, right?
I don't believe so.
And ultimately, you went through the home bubble and the Canton High School bubble, and you arrived at Canton High School on January 29th of 2022 at 1:28 in the morning and 8 seconds.
Can I see what you're referring to?
Sure.
She's like, I have no idea what information you got, but her tone and demeanor changed when he started reading the Life 360 stuff, didn't it? Certainly did. And her answers changed. And she's like, no, no, I don't remember that. No, no, no. Like, okay, sure.
May I approach you on?
Yes.
Yourself and look up at me when you're done. Did that help refresh your memory on where you were that night?
No.
No.
Do you still dispute that you went straight home and didn't leave there?
Objection.
Sustained.
And finally, I just asked you about arriving at Canton High School on January 29th of 2022 at 1:28 and 8 seconds. You arrived at home, within that home bubble, on January 29th of 2022 at 1:30 in the morning and 26 seconds, correct?
What time did it say I arrived at high school?
1:30 in the morning and 26 seconds.
And what time did it say I arrived at high school?
The high school was 1:28 and 8 seconds.
It wouldn't have taken me 2 minutes to go from the high school to my house. I'm confused.
With regard to the high school was also one of the bubbles, one of the areas where you could be, right, on Life 360?
No.
If I may.
Yes.
It is. He's confused.
Did you say that on Life 360, the Canton High School is not one of the areas that you're tracked in?
What do you mean?
So, do you remember we were talking earlier about?
Oh, like put in. Oh,
Not being so, it keeps doing this. I'm gonna. I go down a little. I don't know. It's being weird. It's skipping or lagging. We're gonna go over these times yet again, so don't worry that, or don't think like you missed any. We'll go through them in more detail.
a location like that was home, that was high school.
Like, if your mother's looking for you, where are you?
Yes.
Well, you're at D&E Pizza, you're at high school, you're at, home, right? I mean, those could be categories.
Correct.
You've agreed that home was one of the categories.
Correct.
And having reviewed that, the Canton High School is also
Home and the high school.
one of the categories, correct?
I believe so.
All right. And on January 29th of 2022, the last entry is that you completed a 12-mile drive on January 29th of 2022 at 1:32 in the morning and 23 seconds. And that's the end of the activity. Do you agree
Another 12-mile drive.
with me that that's when you finally stopped that night?
I don't recall.
I may have more.
Yes.
Okay, she was done. All right, so that's really what I wanted to show you there. So let me swap us back to this here. That's what I wanted. Actually here. Sorry, I should have paused. All right, so back to Liar Liar Colin's Getaway driver. So she is something else. All right, let me hide myself 1 second. So we're gonna go over this map of Canton that I screenshotted from my computer as Google Maps is my source. And I put a label on all of the addresses. So as you can see right here, and I underlined everything. So it's easier because I kept losing all the little pins because all these things are, confusing me. All right, so so 34 Fairview is our crime scene. So that's right here. Then we got the Canton High School, Canton Library, Chris and Julie Albert's residence, which is obviously where Colin lives. We've got the O'Keefe residence, which is on the same street, remember, because Colin and John had a beef with one another, which is very important to this whole case. And potentially even they might have been colluding together to get back at John for messing with Colin when Colin would, for being mad at Colin, when Colin would leave beer bottles and things in his yard and in the bushes and whatnot. All right, so then, and the McCabe residence is all the way up here, so keep that in mind. Wanted to give you a nice visual of town. So McCabe's, Fairview, Canton Library, or High School Library, Albert's, O'Keefe, and McCabe's. All right, next, let's go through the timeline between Allie McCabe's, or all of Allie McCabe's Life 360 data that she did not know David Yannetti had, because she was very surprised looking in court at that time when he read the data up. So this is everything he read off in court. I tracked it down as like a timeline. Sorry, my mouth is just so dry today. All right, so I tracked it down, or I put it down as a timeline. So for us visual learners, this is all the morning of Saturday, January 29th. So at 12:04, 53 seconds, she arrives home. 12:06:55, she left home. 12:23:14, a 7-mile trip was completed. 12:23:14, she left home, which means that this logged or completed its log when she looped back at home. So she's getting these 7-mile trip from when she did this 12:06 to 12:23 is what it's saying, but it's logging it at the same time as when she arrives home because that's when her trip completed. Then she leaves home yet again and arrived at the Canton High School at 12:26 and 12 seconds. 1-mile trip was completed at 12:26, 55 seconds. 12:26, 55 again. She leaves Canton High School. So she, at some point, drove near the high school, or at least somewhere in the vicinity, because it can tag her as being there even if she's just driving past it. It's not that intuitive. It's a GPS, so obviously it doesn't know that you didn't stay for very long or whatever. It doesn't matter. It doesn't care how long you stay. All right, so at 12:29:28, she arrives back home again from her trip to the Canton High School at 12:26. At 12:29:29, she left home again. 12:31:22, she took a 12-mile trip. Oops. Oops, that's a mistake. Forget that's there. She took a 12-mile trip here. Then at 1:08, she left home again. At 1:28, she arrived at the Canton High School or went past it. Then at 1:30:26, she arrived home. At 1:33:23, she completed a 12-mile trip. And that is when she stays home. So she comes home and stays home at 1:33. The problem is what she testified to and what the data shows doesn't correlate. So she said on the stand with David Yannetti that she dropped Colin off between, well, she said it at other times too, but she's saying or claiming that she dropped Colin off at 12:15, 12:20, between 12:15 and 12:20. But as we know, she left home at 12:06 and made a 7-mile trip to be home, back home at 12:23. So there's no way that she was with Colin or had gone to 34 Fairview because it's just geographically impossible to make that drive from because we know that it is a 12-mile drive to, or a 13-mile drive. Dexter, hold on. All right, so like I was saying, the time that she is saying that she dropped Colin off, it's impossible geographically to make it back from her home to his to 34 Fairview to his home and then back to her home is a 13-mile trip, or more like 12 probably. And we know she's done two 12-mile trips over here. So that's interesting, isn't it? Um, so there's no possible way that it could have been at this time. I'll show you in more detail what I'm talking about. At 12:30ish, she says that she comes home and stays home. But we know from the Life 360 data that she left home again at 1:08. She arrived or went past the high school at 1:28, and she arrived back home at 1:30. 12-mile trip complete. And and then she's home for the evening. So there's two big, big issues with Allie's testimony, and this is huge because she is a getaway driver. If Colin is guilty of some kind of physical altercation, starting something with John, then she absolutely is his getaway driver. All right, so let's take a closer look. So here's the McCabe residence. It is 6 miles alone just to go to Fairview Road. So, like I said, it is impossible for her to have left home and made a 7-mile trip back home by 12:23 and have dropped and went to pick up and drop Colin off in the middle of that trip. There's no way. Just physically, geographically, it doesn't add up. So 6 miles from the McCabe residence to 34 Fairview Road. Then it's a 4-mile drive. And I did this by color, so this is purple. Then it's a 4-mile drive. Whoops, that was supposed to be blue. I made a lot of mistakes. Sorry, guys. Trying to get this ready for you. All right, so blue, the blue is 4 miles this way. And it's interesting to note if you look at this trip. So she left home, arrived at Canton High School 1:20, and then arrived home again. So left home at 1:08. She didn't go past high school twice this time. So here we saw she arrived, whoops, she arrived at the high school and then she left the high school. So within seconds, she might have just been driving through, but still it logs it twice, as you can see. So this time, on the way from 34 Fairview Road to Colin's house, it's very, very possible that she actually went this way. If you can watch my mouse, I didn't highlight it, but she could have, instead of gone this way, which is 4 miles, she could have gone, which is probably the same amount of distance in miles, but she could have taken Chapman the opposite way and down this way past the Canton Library, which she testified to doing, and then that's on or near the street that she needs to go to the O'Keefe residence. Or not the O'Keefe, sorry, the Albert residence, just near the O'Keefe residence. Does that make sense? She could have gone the opposite way because she didn't pass the high school twice. So she probably didn't go this way now that I'm thinking about it. She probably went this way because she only passed the high school once, which would have been on her way back, which would have been her round trip, whatever, her 12, not her round trip, but her 12 miles. So I hope that makes sense. So Allie McCabe's route to pick up Colin is approximately 13 miles one way. I'll say 12 because that's what her Life 360 says, and maybe it got rounded up a little bit when I was doing this. So All right, so then her Life 360 app places her in locations at times that refute her testimony. And Allie could not have dropped Colin off at 12:15 to 12:20, which is that special time that, like the sweet spot of a time when they say Colin has to be home because we don't want him in that house when what happened to John happened, which was after that time. Do you see what I'm saying? Everyone says, "Oh yeah, he was home by 12:30." But there's no way that he was home by 12:30 if this is Allie, if Allie was his ride home, because she probably didn't do it, or she probably didn't totally lost my train of thought. What was I saying? Allie could not have dropped Colin off at that time. And then I said, "Oh, no. Oh my gosh, hold on. Give me a minute." Got it. So, if she left home at 12:29, this is most likely when she left to go get Colin, because 12:29, 12-mile trip completed, so that means she probably went to 34 Fairview, went the other way, took him the back way so she didn't pass the high school again, and yeah, she had to have gone this way so she didn't pass the high school, now that I'm thinking about it. Darn it, made that mistake. Whoops. Um, so she left home 12:29 and she completes her 12-mile trip. That's when she comes back home. Oh wait, she does two 12-mile trips. Unless she never actually came home at 12:30. You see what I'm saying? I don't know. But then she left home again at 1:08. So she did come home and then she left home again at 1:08. So I don't know, but it doesn't make sense because she should have a two 12-mile round, like two trips, one there and one back, right? No, am I confusing myself? Do you guys know what I'm talking about? I just totally fucked up. Well, regardless of whatever I was trying to say, my brain, I tell you guys, autoimmune diseases are no joke. Sometimes your brain just doesn't want to work. All right, so moving on. Regardless of whatever I was trying to say, Allie McCabe did not drop Colin off at 12:15, 12:20 based on her Life 360 data. In addition, we also know she's lying about her whereabouts that night because she stated she was home at 12:30 and the Life 360 says she doesn't get home until 1:30, which is plenty of time to go pick him up and drop him off at his home. But that wouldn't have happened until later in the evening. So, as you can see, we have refuted her testimony by looking at it this way. So it's just impossible for her to have dropped Colin off at 12:15 or 12:20. And yeah, I think she's not the worst one to be impeached by far because John McCabe, Matt McCabe, Brian Albert, Brian Higgins, they have a lot of other things to worry about. But what does it say about John McCabe that she not only does she leave her good dear friend John O'Keefe out in the snow to lose his life, but she also frames his girlfriend and concocts this cover-up story and tries to help initiate it and keep control of that narrative throughout law enforcement and everything. That is what Jen McCabe has done. So she's also dragged her own daughter into this whole thing by making her the getaway driver of her hot-headed cousin who likes to spout off and argue and fight with people. Even though he was also impeached as well, because I follow Turtle Boy. I found Turtle Boy posted that he requested if anybody had any video of fights between Colin Albert and anyone else to send them to Turtle Boy, because Colin said point blank on the stand, I have never been in a fight with anyone. Well, I can tell you with my own two eyes, I have seen videos now, two occasions where Colin Albert was getting his butt kicked by some other individual. He was not a very good fighter. Not that I'm condoning fighting at all. I'm not. But I'm saying there have been videos that I have seen so far, and Colin's not the tough, hard ass that he acts like he is. I'll just say that from the videos that I've seen. Anyways, so I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I try to bring you guys different angles and look at the cases a little bit differently. I also want to give you, a little mix of everything. So, whatever kind of updates are going on in the case, sometimes I like to organize and give you visuals and things with the information, the evidence that we have so far. So, sometimes I'll do that. And then sometimes I might just stream a piece of or portions of their trial, their testimony, and we'll comment on them. So as this case just keeps getting crazier and crazier, we do have court one day this week. That's Tuesday. So I think I'm posting this Tuesday night. So by then we will have already had court. Brian Higgins is back on the stand Tuesday morning with some more cross-examination. Alan Jackson will not be in because he's got trial out of town. So there's only trial one day this week, which I said is Tuesday, and we'll go from there. Maybe that'll give me some time to catch up on getting out the episodes for this series, because I'm not stopping with this series. There's so many other angles I could go with it too. So whatever angles you guys want to know more about, let me know in the comments below, and I can certainly do more research and look into it and try to find out for you. Any questions you have about the case, let me know in the comments below. Please don't forget to hit that like button. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss any of these episodes and more. I look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you so much for watching. Take care, guys. Bye. If you've been impacted by a true crime and would like your story told in your own words, or if you or someone you know has been wrongfully convicted or accused of a crime, please write to crimeincourtchannel@gmail.com and tell us your real true crime encounters. Thanks for watching.